Hello, free walker. Welcome to episode 35 of the podcast for Nordic walking enthusiasts and instructors.
Приветствую тебя, фриволкер, на 35-м выпуске подкаста для любителей инструкторов скандинавской ходьбы.
Today we have an unusual release. We will go in the company of Alexander Mech, an instructor from Belarus.
Сегодня у нас необычный выпуск. Мы сегодня проведем его в компании с Cristina González Castro.
As you can guess, we will communicate in English. If you're interested in the topic of Nordic walking and breast cancer, then join us.
Как ты догадываешься, сегодня мы будем общаться на английском языке. Если тебе интересна тема скандинавской ходьбы для женщин, перенесших рак молочной железы, тогда присоединяйся.
This is the first such experiment with a non-Russian release. If you find it interesting to meet colleagues from other countries, we can continue such meetings. After completion, Alexander will prepare a retelling of the conversation in Russian in the school blog or a bonus episode.
Это первый подобный эксперимент с выпуском не на русском языке. Если тебе будет интересно знакомиться с коллегами из других стран, то мы можем продолжить подобные встречи. После завершения я подготовлю пересказ беседы на русском языке на блоге школы или в бонусном эпизоде. Cristina, tell me a little bit about your story. How you came to Nordic walking?
Okay. I came across Nordic walking by chance. Usually important things in life come this way, don't they? I was living in the UK. I was studying a degree in sports health and exercise science at the time. And I was living with a Finnish friend. She was my Finnish flatmate. And she proposed a trip to Finland during the summer. And I thought, wow, that would be really nice, a fantastic thing to do, because I've never been in Scandinavia before. And it was researching a little bit on Finland, where it was exactly and all that stuff, that I came across Nordic walking. So, yeah, it was totally by chance because of a trip I did to Finland. After coming across Nordic walking in Finland, I actually emailed them asking if they had some courses in English for tourists and stuff like that, but they didn't. But what they did do is refer me to an organization in the UK. So back in the UK, I contacted the organization and I became a Nordic walking instructor with INWA, the International Nordic Walking Federation. And that was back in 2006.
Let me tell about our story. Okay. I met you in Moscow in INVA conference, and I saw this woman with shiny eyes and smiling and so inspiring topic to talk. So later on, we had a chance to talk and to see what's your specialty. You are now specialized and qualified for Nordic walking with cancer patients, right?
Yes.
Do you take any special training and where?
Yes. Okay. So when I became a Nordic walking instructor, I was studying a degree in sports health and exercise science. Once I finished that degree, I went on to study another degree in radiotherapy and oncology at the University of London. So I do have a degree in radiotherapy and oncology. So that is, I don't know if people know about that, but I was basically in a radiotherapy department providing radiotherapy to cancer patients. Mm-hmm. And after that, I came back to Spain. I actually live in Spain now. I've been here for, 7 or 8 years now. And before coming back, actually, I trained as an exercise specialist in cancer rehabilitation as well. And that was a training that was provided at the UK. But I've been working with breast cancer patients since 2005 because I was a Pilates instructor and a fitness instructor. And I always came across women with this kind of pathology. It was later on, after studying the sports science degree and the radiotherapy and oncology degree at the same time that I was a Nordic walking instructor, that I realized that the three things were really easy to meld together, to combine. So that's where I started thinking, wow, Nordic walking is a fantastic way of exercising for women with breast cancer in particular, and cancer in general anyway. So yeah, that's my background, my academic background in this area.
May I ask you about your story? How you decided to move to Spain? I know that in Great Britain is very popular Nordic walking. What was your reason to come to Spain?
It's the reason why the world moves. It was love, actually.
Oh,
I moved because of love. Yes, and
now I
I ended
understand.
up in, and I ended up in a city in northern Spain called Bilbao. And there was nothing. There was no Nordic walking there, nothing at all. So it was quite hard to start there. But nowadays, it's been like 8 years or so, and nowadays, what I started is a Nordic walking sporting club, and they have over 100 members. So I'm really proud about that. I'm really happy for them because I don't live in Bilbao anymore. I moved to Bilbao because of love, and I moved out of Bilbao because of lack of love.
Mm.
So it's fine. I have a very good relationship with all my ex-partners, so that's fantastic. But I now live in northwest of Spain, which is a region called Galicia, just on top of Portugal, and Nordic walking here is nowhere. No one knows about Nordic walking. There's 2 or 3 instructors in the whole region, and there's a lot of work to do to present Nordic walking to the people, to different populations. So yeah, it's nothing like in the UK, because in the UK is much more popular. So yeah.
Oh, really? I'm surprised because when you have nobody who is going Nordic walking, so it's quite difficult to say about your specialization, right? You are glad to see any Nordic walking in your company. How you became a specialized instructor in such field?
Yes, well, since the beginning, I was working with clients, and some of them had breast cancer. So that's when I was back in the UK, and I realized it was a really fantastic way of exercising for them. And then I just carried on investigating and researching in this area. So I've actually published a couple of scientific papers on the benefits of Nordic walking in lymphedema patients, for instance, and stuff like that. So I've been in several medical congresses presenting work regarding the benefits of Nordic walking in that area. So I just approached cancer associations, and they were quite happy to hear what I had to say. And of course, it's hard at the beginning to start with them when they don't know what this sport is and what it can offer. But yes, I am mainly working with cancer associations, but the general public is not aware of what Nordic walking is. So in Spain, actually, there's some regions where Nordic walking is more popular, but not where I'm living now. And there's 2 main reasons why Nordic walking is becoming popular in Spain. One is competition, which is really big now. Really big. It is getting big because the Mountaineering Federation is organizing official competitions, and there's some private ones as well. And the other reason why Nordic walking is becoming popular is because in the healthcare setting, they are starting to realize that it has a lot of advantages for patients in general, and specifically in breast cancer. One of the big ones, and maybe you've heard about this, is that the Nordic walking technique, opening and closing of your hands, improves circulation, both blood and lymphatic
Right, right.
circulation, and that's a really good asset for these people. Yeah.
What are specific features of working with such group of trainees, workers, from your point of view as an instructor?
Well, there's several really good things about Nordic walking. In a paper I published in 2013, I divided these advantages in 3 blocks: physiological, psychosocial, and implementation advantages. So I can just, go through them a little bit if you want me to.
Yeah, let's
Re-
go.
regard yeah, regarding physiological advantages, we all know that Nordic walking is a whole body exercise. So it is an aerobic exercise. It improves range of motion. So this is really good in breast cancer in particular, because most of these ladies have impaired movement at the shoulder. So the fact that we're moving our arms back and forth is actually good for them. There's also some research on posture And there's been research in different populations, like office workers, regarding neck and back pain and shoulder pain and things like that. But also there's some studies specifically done on breast cancer patients, and they've seen that Nordic walking actually improves bad posture. And there's studies indicating that Nordic walking increases energy expenditure, but there's research from 2000 already, because this is one of the things that has been most researched upon. Very interestingly, there's some research on pain as well. And there's a recent study on aromatase inhibitors, which is a specific treatment for cancer, and Nordic walking reduces joint pain related to this treatment. And then other things that are common to any other person, like, this better levels of blood pressure, heart rate, exercise capacity, oxygen consumption, and specifically what I just talked about, circulation and lymphatic return. That's a very big one. I'm not sure if everyone is aware of what lymphedema is, but you might have seen ladies with a swollen arm, maybe using a compression sleeve. And it's a condition that can come as a consequence of the tumor itself or cancer treatment that is obstructing the lymphatic system, which is it's part of the circulatory system. It runs parallel to the blood, and what it does, it carries lymphatic fluid called lymph from the soft tissues to the heart. So if this system is impaired, that liquid, that fluid, it can't go anywhere, and it stays in the tissues. That's why it presents with edema of the arm. So if we open and close our hands on a regular basis while we Nordic walk, that is improving circulation and it's favoring lymphatic return. So that's a really important one, and it's probably one of the ones that's been most researched upon. I was lucky enough to collaborate with another colleague from INGWA, Andrea Di Blasio. He's an international trainer, and he's in University of Città e Pescara in Italy. And I collaborated with him and other Italian researchers researching this. And actually, if you do actually open and close your hands, there's been benefits on women with lymphedema. The trouble is that if you don't open and close your hands, of course, you won't benefit from that. So technique is important. So these are a little bit a wide view of the physiological advantages that you can have. But then, and this is very important in the cancer field, there's some psychosocial benefits as well. And probably the most important one is low perceived exertion, because that means that if you Nordic walk, you feel less tired than if you're not walking with no poles at the same speed. And that's because we're sharing the effort between the upper and the lower body, of course. As we all know, Nordic walking is actually engaging the upper body in our movement forward. So yeah, low perceived exertion. This is very interesting because if you think of cancer patients, most of them are very tired because of a condition that's called cancer-related fatigue. And if you have a group of people that are really tired and you're looking for them to engage in some kind of sport or physical activity, you have to find something that doesn't really feel too tiring. That's why Nordic walking is quite fits quite nicely here. And also, it is easy to learn. So because the basic motor pattern is just natural walking. So we all know how to walk. So it's just a matter of adding the poles to our natural way of walking. And these two, low perceived exertion and easiness to learn, they combine very nicely to produce adherence. Adherence means to be constant with the activity. Not to exercise just once in a while, but do it in a regular basis. And this is a very important point. Also, it's important to highlight that walking is the preferred physical activity for cancer patients. So really, Nordic walking is a little bit more than walking. So it is quite good in order to get people to be regular with the activity. And just to finish off with the psychosocial benefits, really important, and there's some research on this as well. It is a social sport, so the companionship, all this peer support that comes along with Nordic walking is really important in cancer care, because they create really special bonds between them, patients and survivors and stuff. So yeah, that's really important. Those are the physiological and maybe the most important psychological, psychosocial advantages. And then to end, we have implementation, because of course, Nordic walking is inexpensive. You only need a pair of poles and some instruction, but it's nothing too complicated. I mean, you don't have to spend a large amount of money. You don't need large facilities or anything like that. So that's a really important point. And yeah, and of course, if you can walk, you can Nordic walk. So you can do it since you're a kid until you're older age. So, and there's different settings as well, and with different goals. I'm talking about rehabilitation here, but of course you can do it for recreational, fitness, sporting, whatever you want to do it. So it is a very interesting sport to implement in the healthcare setting. Yeah.
Let me point my attention to this movement of closing and opening our arm. And I know that some style of Nordic walking accept that you can walk with open arm, right? Some people walk without closing their arm.
Well, in that case, it is physical activity, it is aerobic activity, exercise, but you won't benefit from improved circulation or lymphatic return, because the reason why you are benefiting from that is that when you open and you close your hands, you can actually see that yourself. If you stand up and you just leave your arms on the side in a sunny day, in a heat, when it's sunny and there's heat, and you can see how your hands can get a little bit swollen. And if you open and close them, you can see that circulation is activating. But
right.
if you don't open and close your hands, like some people, when they walk without poles, walking in the street, they get swollen hands. But especially if you like holding a bottle or something like that, you won't get any benefit on circulation if you don't open and close your hands. That's the way the body works. So there's no way going around that, really. Of course, it is exercise, but you won't benefit from improved circulation if you don't open and close your hands.
Have you tried these Nordic Power poles with extra weight close to the wrist?
So it will work for intensity, maybe, but it won't work for circulation if you don't open and close your hands. That's a fact. So I know there's several, methods to improve physiological conditions. They're like fitness assets to Nordic walking, but Nordic walking in itself is just using poles, adding poles to the natural way of walking. Anything else that you add is fitness, but it's not necessarily Nordic walking per se. Do you know what I mean? So maybe you can do a circuit and use that as part of your training, but if you really want to benefit from the lymphatic return and the circulation being improved, you have to open and close your hands. I mean, there's no way around that. It's the way it is. Maybe you get stronger if you do exercises, other type of exercises, but you won't get the benefit of lymphatic return, which is one of the main benefits from Nordic walking in breast cancer.
So you mostly recommend the classical Nordic walking poles?
Yeah, I don't mean that you can't do other things, but they have to be in addition to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if you Nordic walk and on top of that you do a Pilates session or circuit session or strength training session, that's fine. But you have to Nordic walk open and closing your hands as well, because otherwise you won't get the benefits from lymphatic return.
What other things people with such problems should be aware to keep healthy?
Well, lymphedema, I mean, we usually know people with lymphedema because they've been treated with, they've been under breast cancer treatment. But lymphedema is actually a primary disease as well. It's a rare disease, so you don't necessarily have to go through cancer to have lymphedema. So you can have lymphedema in a leg, for instance, or in any part of your body. So it's because of what I explained before. There's something that's limiting the functioning of the lymphatic system. So there's an amount of liquid that cannot go away from the soft tissue. So that's why whichever area we're talking about is swollen. Yeah. In breast cancer, it's the arm, and one of the things that these ladies should know is that once lymphedema arises, it doesn't go away, but you can control it. So in order to control it, there's several measures that you have to take care of. Yeah. So one is skin care. You have to be very careful with the skin of that arm, because you don't want it like to have infections or things like that. So you have to be careful with the sun exposure, for instance, and you won't put injections in that arm, things like that. Also, you don't want to constrict that arm too much, so you won't wear really tight clothing or really tight bracelets or anything like that. So regarding the straps in Nordic walking, you don't want to put them too tight. You have to be strapped on the poles, because otherwise you won't be able to do Nordic walking. But you don't want them to put them really, really tight, because you don't want to constrict circulation. So that's one of the things that they should think about. Also, talking about lymphedema, there's other measures. Sometimes the medical team will prescribe a compression sleeve. And maybe you've seen ladies wearing a compression sleeve in their arm, and that's something that has to be prescribed by the medical team. It's a special compression sleeve. So there's research saying that it is really important to use it, and there's research saying that it's up to the patient to use it. But I would just follow the medical advice that whichever is given to the person. So I do have some ladies with breast cancer, they Nordic walk with the sleeve, and I have a couple of them who walk without the sleeve. So yeah, but that's something that they need to discuss with their medical team. And then, of course, stay away from the heat, stay away from the sun, and keep hydrated. Things like that they should be aware of. Also, progression. You don't want to, if you're not doing much lately, you don't want to go out and walk for a long time and get really exhausted, because if you over exercise, it can have the opposite effect. So yeah, you have to be kind of cautious here, and you don't have to become obsessed about the lymphedema, of course, but you have to kind of monitor it and see what happens when you walk and what happens after you come from your Nordic walk. And if you see any changes, you should discuss them with your medical team. Yeah.
Our doctors know about Nordic walking. Do they recommend it?
They probably won't know about it, but if you explain what it is and how you do it, they should be able to tell you if it's okay for you or not. I don't know any doctor or physiotherapist who hasn't. I don't know any doctor or physiotherapist telling these ladies not to exercise. Some of them don't know what Nordic walking is, but when they explain it to them, they are kind of pleased with the activity, because, of course, they do recommend walking. Sometimes they recommend Nordic walking if they know Nordic walking, but if they don't know Nordic walking, they can't recommend it. But there is enough research stating that Nordic walking is beneficial in this population group. So, yeah, Nordic walking is an effective and safe kind of exercise for these persons. But the question is, do you like Nordic walking? Because if they like it, it's great. But I always, I am a Nordic walking enthusiast. But if someone doesn't like Nordic walking, they have to find something that they really like, because motivation is the key for everything.
Right. Cristina, what is the most difficult part of such classes for the instructor?
I will differentiate two different scenarios here. One scenario is that you're teaching Nordic walking to a group and you don't know, but there's someone in the group with breast cancer. This happens quite often. So if you don't know that there's someone with breast cancer who had breast cancer, it depends. Some countries you will know because you need to do a PARQ first, like they have to sign in a form and they have to state if they have any disease or anything. But in some other countries, you don't need to do that.
Do you have this formality in Spain?
it's not compulsory. So here it would be very easy to just in the middle of the class, maybe someone tells you, actually, I'm a breast cancer patient. And you go like, oh, okay. So maybe you've noticed because you've seen that there's some limitation on that arm or stuff. But, this is something that it depends on the country. But if you are teaching and this person is just in your class as one more, you would just have to teach normally unless they tell you something because you wouldn't know. But it's fine because doctors should advise and the medical team should advise breast cancer patients to exercise. However, if you're actually giving a Nordic walking lessons for breast cancer ladies, then you should structure the session and you should tailor it for them. And one of the most important things is to begin with breathing exercises because breathing is really important for circulation and lymphatic return as well. So it's a good idea to start with breathing exercises. Then there's some specific exercises that can be done to control and prevent lymphedema. And also you have to pace the session. You have to individualize it, But in general terms, if you are aware of 2 or 3 key points, it could be quite easy to teach Nordic walking to breast cancer patients, and they could join a regular group with no problem. But it is worth knowing about these breathing exercises and these special exercises that you should do with this kind of ladies. Yes.
You travel a lot before the pandemic.
Yeah, that's right.
In what countries you have met the most proficient instructors who work with such walkers?
I used to travel a lot before the COVID thing, but not necessarily because of breast cancer in particular. I did meet people who work with breast cancer. I mean, instructors, Nordic walking instructors who work with breast cancer in almost every country that I've been in. But it's a matter of, there's a lot of knowledge around exercise and cancer. There's a lot of scientific knowledge. What's missing is information. I mean, sharing that knowledge. Do you know what I mean? So not everyone knows about it.
Right.
And the first ones who don't know are the patients and the carers and the medical team. Sometimes they don't even know about this. So my job in Spain, what I used to do before COVID came, is to spread the word. I'm not like a proper researcher. I'm more like I translate what's going on in scientific research, and I translate it into easy English or Spanish terms, so normal people, normal, not that scientists are not normal, but normal people can understand it. Because it's very nice to have a lot of knowledge about physical exercise and cancer, but it's no use if Maria from my building has cancer and doesn't have a clue about that. So my job was, I was giving lectures and I was training some sports technicians, and I give talks to cancer patients, and I work with cancer associations to spread the word, to inform about the benefits of physical activity and especially Nordic walking in the cancer setting. So that's what I used to do before COVID. Now I'm trying to go a little bit more digital because, of course, I can't travel anymore. But once everyone starts knowing that physical activity and Nordic walking are good, then there's a huge barrier that's been overcome, because one of the biggest barriers is the lack of information and fear, because breast cancer, for instance, most of the patients are, mature ladies, let's say over 55, over 60, and some of them, they've never exercised before, so they don't even know where to start, and they don't even know if it's good to exercise. So they are scared. So fear is something that paralyzes in life. Mm-hmm. It creates fear paralysis comes because of fear in life in general, but in cancer it's a particular big issue. So I don't know if there's better instructors regarding breast cancer in one country or in another, but I think it's just a matter of education. We should all know that physical exercise is good for cancer patients. So that's that's my motto, to make sure that everyone knows this.
You do a lot of work and research work, and I see that COVID pushed you to the starting online course. Tell us about for whom this, and some people they a little bit skeptic to the online of Nordic walking. What you can tell
Yeah.
about your course? What does it
Yes.
present?
Yes, well, I started with this online campus before COVID, actually, but I had everything in Spanish. Maybe I only had one course in English. And now, since COVID, I've been translating some of the courses. Of course, I don't teach people to Nordic walk in online courses. That's not what I do, because I don't think that's really. I mean, it could be possible to do in a remote way, but you would have to have some kind of communication with the students, and videos coming back and forth, and feedback from videos, and saying, look, you need to work on this, and but this is not what I'm offering. What I'm offering is actually courses for people who already know how to Nordic walk. So for Nordic walking instructors and enthusiasts, and also sports people, people who like competing in Nordic walking challenges and races and stuff, competitions. So what I offer, it's going a little bit further. So I have an introduction course of Nordic walking fundamentals, where I speak about really basic things, and I touch upon very basic biomechanics, because I think that is one of the big issues in Nordic walking: applied biomechanics. Not everyone is doing things correctly, and of course, the goal in Nordic walking is to maximize benefits and minimize injury risk. And depending on how you practice Nordic walking, this might not happen. So I have a course on Nordic walking fundamentals, which is a just very basic course, and stating what is Nordic walking, and a chapter on basic biomechanics, and also the basic, or not basic, but the most common mistakes that are done, because this is based in a book that I wrote some years ago, and I wrote it because I realized that in Spain Nordic walking is getting more popular. And not everyone is doing it with the proper technique. So the book was actually called Nordic Walking Safe and Effective Practice, because I think that's vital to have a safe and effective practice.
Right.
Then I have some other courses. One is orientated to instructors, because it's called field testing for Nordic walking. And everyone, when someone is an instructor, they teach, and that's it. Maybe they have groups and they go for a walk, but there's not much more. And I wanted to give instructors a tool so they could motivate and also monitor the progress of the students. So I just list and show how to do, I think there's 6, 7 or 8, I can't remember, 7, maybe 7 field tests that are really easy to do with very little material. And they are objective tests. So you can, take the baseline levels of those tests, and then test again, like before Christmas, after Christmas, and see how your students are doing. But these are physical conditioning tests. And then I do have a course on Nordic walking and breast cancer, where I give a lot of information about important things that should be known by instructors. And I give some specific exercises as well, and fact sheets and stuff like that. And I also talk about some research. But they are not courses to learn Nordic walking in an initial stage. Finally, I have MRM certification, which is Movement Re-Education Method certification. And that's because I can see that a lot of people doing Nordic walking since many years ago, sometimes they don't actually do it properly. So it's kind of difficult for them to change things. When once you learned in a particular way, it's very difficult to change it,
Yeah.
but it's not impossible. And in this methodology that I created, I just blended all the background I have, because I've done, loads of studying in my life, and I carry on studying. So I combine different tools like exercises, but progressions, speed and intensity progressions, and a little bit of very easy meditation and visualizations, and things like that. Body awareness, which is crucial. So I mix all those tools in order to improve the quality of the movement. So yeah, so answering to your question, I don't really teach Nordic walking online. What I do is I give tools to improve your Nordic walking once you already know how to Nordic walk. I don't know if you do you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And someone who would be interested in your course, they can come to this site for tribal.com, right?
Yes, of course. They're more than welcome to visit my website. I also have a research blog where I've been updating this blog since I don't know 2011 or 12, and I just give free little brief little summaries of the research that comes out on Nordic walking, and it's quite nice to have them all together, because of course they're all. I mean, these studies are published on the internet. I mean, you won't be able to get to the main paper because most of the scientific research is you can't read the whole paper, but you can read the abstract in English. But what I've done is just do little summaries, like in normal language that anyone can understand, and they all in the same site. So you can access that site from the online campus as well. Yeah.
You mentioned this field test, and I'm interested. Can an instructor use them for motivation of their clients?
Yes, they are very easy to perform field tests. They are based on research, so I didn't make them up. They are used in scientific research, but I don't mean for instructors to use them as scientists. I mean them to use them as instructors with those two goals: one, to motivate their clients, and secondly, to monitor their progress. Because, for instance, one of them is a balance test. So you have to stand up on one leg, and well, you have to do it in a precise way. Yeah. And all you have to do is time that.
Hmm.
So you note that down, and then you can see how the balance of this person is progressing throughout your Nordic walking season. And then it might give you clues to work on adding some balance exercises, for instance, in your Nordic walking lessons and things like that. Another one is hand grip strength. So you would have to buy a hand dynamometer. They're really cheap. You can get them for less than 30 euros online, and they're really. I mean, in my experience, students love it because especially guys, they want to do competitions to see who's stronger.
Yeah. We-
But they are very simple tests to perform. You don't need a lab or anything like that. And I don't even give them the normal values because I'm not interested in the normal values of the general population. I'm interested in the values my students have. And I want to compare how you're doing on the first day of the season, how you're doing before Christmas, how you're doing after Christmas, things like that. So I think it's quite interesting. And I have it on my online campus since last year, and a few Spanish instructors have done this course, and they reported feedback saying that their students were really happy with them because it was something they wished to work towards. You've got flexibility tests as well, and things like that.
Nice. You had explained a lot about the cancer, about this training, and even introduced the course that you have for Nordic walking instructors. Do you have something to add regarding to our topic today?
I have a lot of information on cancer and exercise in my website, which is fortravel.com. You can get to it from the online campus. The thing is that my website is in Spanish because I'm based in Spain, but there's a Google Translator tab. Of course, translation is not perfect, but there's a lot of information there. I have a blog on exercise and cancer in general.
Yeah,
Apart
I
from
see. Sorry for interrupting. I'm just trying on your site to translate in Russian, and it can be readable pretty good.
Yeah, it's not perfect though. I don't know Russian, but I tried to English, and well, it's not perfect, but you can understand most of it. And there's a lot of technical articles on Nordic walking as well. I mean, regarding technique.
Cristina, you are so fast, and you take an idea and realize it immediately. Tell us about surprise that you have for our listeners.
Yes. Well, you have actually inspired me a lot with this invitation you made me to be here in your podcast. And I've decided to set my own Nordic walking podcast because I think it would be a really nice way to share my knowledge on Nordic walking and also to share research information that's out there and not everyone knows about. So I will be launching my Nordic walking podcast very soon.
It's a great idea, and I will put in the notes a link to your podcast, so anyone who listen now, Cristina, can join your podcast, subscribe, and be a new listener.
Fantastic.
Follow you.
Thank you so much.
Could you tell a little bit more about your idea, what you're gonna give to your clients through the podcast?
Well, it's actually the stuff that I usually work on in Nordic walking. My main interest is on biomechanics, basic applied biomechanics, and things like good body alignment. And it's not about the big movement pattern, but the little things that we could work on to improve our technique. So maybe things like how to protect our shoulders or how the arm movement should be, things like that. Yeah, that's something that I'm really into. Like, because walking, we all know how to walk, but then when we use poles, sometimes things get altered in some ways. So yeah, that's my main focus. Basic applied biomechanics.
Okay, great. I can't wait to get on your list and get listen to your podcast.
Sometimes it's difficult when, I don't know if this happens to you, but when you spread the word, and you don't agree with other things, they think you're trying just to fight with them. So sometimes it's complicated. And because I talk a lot about technique, alpha people, oh my God, they hated me before. Now it's getting a little bit better, but they don't like me because, of course, I don't know if you have alpha technique in your country. Do you have alpha technique?
We have some instructors that have been in Germany, and they learn this technique, but mostly Innova technique is most popular.
Here it's very big. Alpha is because they train anyone. You don't need any background in sports or anything. So there's a lot of alpha, and they do really, really horrible things from the biomechanics point of view. So that's the only thing that was, stopping me before, because I write things and stuff, but I think I'll just start spreading my word anyway, even if I get people.
You're right. You can find your client, your people who follow you and will listen to you.
No, I do have. I mean, everyone in Spain knows me. I'm in the Nordic walking world. When I meet them personally, they like me because me. I don't go fighting around. But of course, I don't agree with what they say, and they don't. I can justify it, but they can't, because all they say is that's what they taught me. And I'm like, yes, it's fine that they taught you that, but did you think why do you have to put your wrist in a hyperextended position? That's injury risk, and they can't fight me back. So
this is the most important question that we should ask always. Why?
Yeah, that's what I tell them. Why do you slam the poles against the ground? Why do you have to do that with so much force? And they go like, because they told me to. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not an answer. So yeah, you gave me a big idea here, Sasha. So yeah, I think I'll start recording.
What are the disappointments you see in the Nordic walking world that you can want to solve or to clear?
That's all the work I do. If you visit my website, fortreble.com, in the tab, Nordic walking tab, you will see there's like 10 articles on Nordic walking technique. And I'm talking about the wrist position, the shoulder position, not to slam the poles, not to turn your palms facing backwards while you push, all these kind of things. I talk about in the online courses, I talk about that as well. And in the book, I talk about that as well. I mean, I've been talking about that since probably 10 years ago. And at the beginning in Spain, all the Alpha school and the FitTrek school hated me, and some other schools, because we have like 6 schools here. And now, because they've seen my CV and, the way I've been working, and I published scientific research and things, and then some of them met me personally, and they saw that I'm a normal person and I'm quite nice. So they realized that I was not against them. I'm just stating what I believe in, and of course, I'm justifying everything with research, and they cannot do that. So that's why I got it. There were some years ago, like 7 years ago, there was a terrible atmosphere in the Nordic walking world in Spain, because everybody hated each other. You had to be with someone or against someone, and it was horrible. But now it's a little bit better. So let's see.
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic for us, because we almost in such situation in post-Soviet Union. Tell us what can solve such a problem and get united, because when I started this podcast, I also wanted to show how different can be each instructor, and every technique can have a chance for life and be implemented. What do you think about this situation, and what helped you to overcome it?
Yes, look, first of all, and when I train instructors, I tell them, do not fight with other schools. Just, collaborate with them if you can. And if you can't cooperate because you don't believe in what they're saying, just don't be aggressive or anything like that. I mean, years ago, we had a guy in Ingua, Spain, and he was constantly attacking everyone, every other school on Facebook and stuff like that. So that's not the way, If you go against someone, you won't get anything from that person. So I respect everyone, and I tell people that if you exercise, it's better than being in the sofa. But if you exercise with a safe and effective practice, it's better than just exercising. So we don't have to believe in the same things, but we have to be able to be in disagreement. Yeah, agreement, that's the word. We don't have to agree with everything, but we have to be able to disagree if we want to disagree. But the main thing here is, are you justifying your facts? Because this is the main problem I had. I always, if I said you can't hyperextend your wrist, I explained why, always. So for me, the key thing is not to go in an aggressive way. Some people will never be in agreement with you, and I will never be in agreement with them. But I always say, I respect everyone, but for me, there's a red line. And the red line that you can't cross is safety. So I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. And before, there was a big fight in Spain because there was like 6 private schools. But now the Spanish Mountaineering Federation is the only official Nordic walking body approved by the government. So all the people from the schools try to get inside that, and the fight is in there now. But it is complicated, because look at the UK, Catherine, in the UK. When I trained in the UK in 2006, it was called Nordic Walking UK, and it was Ingwa. And some years later, I started getting emails from Nordic Walking UK and also from British Nordic Walking. And I thought, what is this? And then I realized, me and every other instructor in England, we realized that the 2 guys who were in Nordic Walking UK, they had a big fight and they split. So now there's 2 big organizations in the UK: British Nordic Walking UK, British Nordic Walking, which is Ingwa, and Nordic Walking UK, which was the original Ingwa. But they both do exactly the same thing, the same technique, but they hate each other. And instructors, some of them are in both, and some of them hate each other. So it's really sad, because if they were together, if you collaborate with people, you will be able to gain much more. I believe in networking, but this happens in a lot of countries. So my advice is, try to be kind to everyone, but keep your values as well. So I always say, I respect you, but for me, the red line is safety. And I'm sorry, but that thing that you're doing is not safe.
What helps me in such situations is that I think each of us going to the same direction. We just choose different roads, and everybody has the right to go on their road in their technique.
Yeah, but that's what they tell me. But they say, I'm not saying that you are doing it wrong. Why are you saying that I'm doing it wrong? That's what they tell me. And I tell them, I'm telling you you're doing it wrong, because that technical aspect that you're using is increasing injury risk. And I justify it with research, but they are not pleased because I'm basically saying that, for instance, alpha technique increases injury risk, and they don't agree, of course, because that's what they sell. So it is complicated, but what can I do?
So for those people who met with such elbow problems, they should pay attention more to this like a soft hand when they walk, right?
The elbow, it can be different things, but one of the main issues is that a lot of people slam the poles against the ground, like really hard. And that's ridiculous, seriously. I mean, it has no scientific background behind that. Listen to this. When you walk, what do you place on the floor? The heel of the foot, yeah?
Right.
First you place the heel, and then supposing that you have a normal step, yeah? You place the heel and you walk. Imagine that every time that you place your heel, you slam your heel against the floor, yeah? That would be painful, wouldn't it?
And unnatural.
Unnatural. And also, is it giving you any advantage at all? No, because when you
Right.
place the heel on the floor, you don't have to push forward at that moment. You just place the heel, roll the foot, and then when you push is with your fingers, yeah. But the final push is with the first metatarsals and with the big finger, yeah. But you don't push with your feet. Forget about the Nordic walking poles. When you walk in the street, you don't push when you place the heel. You push when you step off, when you push with the fingers of your foot. Yes. So there's no point on slamming your heel against the ground, because the only thing you're going to do is increase injury risk, because everything is vibrating a lot, and you're not going anywhere faster, because that's not the moment to push. And the same happens with the poles. When you have to push the most is at the end of the stroke, at the end of the pushing, not at the beginning. At the beginning, when you place the pole on the ground, it's equal to when you place the heel on the ground. So you just have to place it. And then you start pushing, and then you give the final push. But there's no scientific justification for slamming heels or poles on the ground. It's ridiculous. I mean, if instead of you doing that with the poles, you do it with your heels, you realize that it's actually ridiculous to do that. So that's what I teach people. And I remember,
Thank you, Cristina.
I remember someone telling me, but they told me to do that. And I said, okay, I know they told you to do that, but try this. Do you think can you justify, why would you slam your heels against the ground? And the guy was like, oh, yeah, no, there's no point. And I said, yeah, why don't you think a little bit? Don't just believe everything they tell you. So I always tell my students and my audiences, don't believe me, Cristina. Don't believe Cristina. Look for research, look for facts, and use your brains. Don't just say yes to everything that's told to you.
I see we're going deeper and deeper, and it can be a topic for a different episode with you to discuss about these fakes and disappointees.
That's why I was thinking of doing little audios, because I have all this information in written already. So I think I will do little audios, but yeah. It's, there could be a lot of workshops on this.
Okay, one more question I have to you, since you have such experience. Tell me, how many instructors can really work on, like, to survive and to make money only as a Nordic walking instructor? I know that you work in rehabilitations as well, and Nordic walking is not only the one field that
I've
you
never been working only on Nordic walking. I've always been, I was a speaker, because I'm in trouble now. I have no more trouble. I have no more trips. But before, I used to give talks, and they paid me to give talks, and I gave training and things like that. In Spain, like 10 years ago, no one could live of Nordic walking. No one. Now, some people live of Nordic walking only. Not a lot, but usually they live out of Nordic walking because, one, they sell poles. Two, they give Nordic walking lessons. And three, they go for Nordic walking routes, like excursions, routes, like 2 hour,
right.
3 hour walk.
I understand.
So, but the main thing is that they sell poles. That is what's giving them the most money. And
I see.
there's not a lot of people living only of Nordic walking in Spain. I only know one, two, maybe two or three. I don't know more, but of course I don't know everyone. But most of people, they are, I don't know, a Pilates instructor, and also they give Nordic walking, or they are school teachers and they also give Nordic walking, and they have other jobs, or they have a gym or things like that, and they use Nordic walking as one of their tools. And then there's some people who do Nordic walking, but they don't charge. So because maybe they work in a bank and they did an alpha course on a weekend, and suddenly they are exercise professionals. So not a lot of people live out of Nordic walking, but I think that everyone who lives out of Nordic walking is because they sell poles as well. Because if you sell poles, you can get money. Yeah, it's complicated to live only of Nordic walking.
Okay, thank you for such
Do
clarification.
you live only from Nordic walking? No.
Not. Also setting the poles and making studies, master classes.
Yeah. But your main activity is Nordic walking then. I mean, you don't have another one.
Yes. Okay. So thank you very much again, you, for this participation in Nordic Walking podcast, and I hope to hear you again and to walk along with you somewhere in the world.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you very much. Yes, just to let you know, just the final thing is not about Nordic walking. It's all over the press today here that your government is taking action against artists and intellectual people and things like that. So, yeah, just so you know that in Spain, at least, the newspapers are really stating what is actually happening, and they talked about a lot of the tensions yesterday as well in Minsk. So,
thank you for such support, and I really appreciate that you have the clear view of situation in Belarus.
Yeah. I want you to know that at least in Spain, it's in the newspapers, and it's in the news and on TV, and there's images and everything. Yeah. And they talked about this lady, 73-year-old lady in Minsk, that she was detained and then they left her free. But yeah. I know maybe it's difficult there because I don't know how it works, and I know Russia doesn't have a very transparent press, but at least here they are stating things as they are. So let's hope for the future to be better.
Thank you, Cristina.
Thank you very much. Very pleased to be here.